Welcome to another episode of Living the Dream. I'm your host and moderator, Gregory Tucker. Now, Living the Dream is about entrepreneurs, movers and shakers far as within our community. Those individuals who had a dream, a vision, and most importantly, took action in turning that vision into a reality. And today we have someone very special who's going to give us some insight as far as into the music business. If this is your first time coming to our channel, we hope that you will find information informative. If you like our program, please give us a thumbs up. And if this is your first time coming, make sure that you subscribe so that way you won't let an episode pass you by. Or if you've seen some of the other shows and you've been on the fence, again, subscribe. And with that said, we're going to get down to it. Today, we have in our midst Mr. Emmett North Jr., the international recording artist and all-around good guy. Emmett, thank you for gracing our stage or joining us here on this podcast.
Glad to be here again, my brother.
Now, you've been around the world, and what we like to always ask is, tell us your story.
Well, like I said, I was born in Middletown, Ohio. Family moved to Dayton, Ohio when I was just before I was 12. I started picking up the guitar for a second time when I started meeting a lot of my friends and their families were singing gospel music where they had guitar and bass. Even though I was playing gospel music, listening to gospel music through my family, I had a lot of aunts and uncles and cousins who was already singing in the church choirs and stuff like that. So moved to Dayton, I started seeing guitars, more guitars, and I liked the guitar anyway. So I started hanging out, listening to them rehearse. You know, my friends, family, the aunts and uncles and fathers were singing, and so I kind of wanted to get back into an idea of wanting to play guitar again, because previously to that, I think I first saw American Bandstand when I was about 5 years old, and it's kind of really got my juices flowing to wanting to try and do some music, but really knew nothing about the professionalism. I just knew what I liked and heard on television and the radio. So after seeing people on TV like Jackie Wilson and Chuck Berry and James Brown and Little Richard and Fats Domino and a bunch of... I didn't have a clue, but I've heard of him, and I wish I had talked to him more. But like, you know, when you out and about and you're in the Army with a lot of different guys, you don't know if anybody's famous for this or that or popular, so I didn't learn it till after I had left, and wish I had spent more time with him.
Too bad they didn't have selfies and so forth back in that time.
Wow. Well, anyway, I ended up going from there to Fort Dix, New Jersey, to be shipped over to Germany. And I actually saw a friend of mine that I showed a few chords to when I was in Dayton. He was from Dayton. His name was Carl McDaniel. He ended up being one of the guitar players with New Birth. Well, I looked over in the line from where he was. It was about 10 feet. All the guys in my line were, going to Germany. There might have been some going to Vietnam, but at least that's where I went, to Germany. And then the other line, I happened to recognize my friend Carl, which we called him Butch. I said, man, what are you doing here? He said, yeah, he joined, you know. I said, well, I didn't join. They drafted me. So I was at home playing with my band, you know, and found that I have to go. So I went on over to Germany, man, after being over there for a few months, going to the service clubs over there where the troops and stuff would go in and have beers and stuff and listen to music, I got a chance to hear about other musicians. And they said, man, we could put together something and perform here at the clubs. Oh. It was the NCO club.
Okay.
So after putting the band together, when I was off post, this actually was in Heilbronn, Germany. I met some German guys, and I ended up getting in the German band off post. So I was playing with military guys on post, doing rhythm and blues, and I was playing with a German band when I was off post with some Germans doing pop and everything else. So anyway, I used to be on guard duty a lot and doing KP, which is like peeling potatoes in the kitchen during those times. And I got so popular on post, a lot of the officers started hearing about me and my band. So a lot of times I got off guard duty in KP. If they had a party or a dinner with some of the other officers, they wanted me and my band. So they got me off a lot of guard duty and a lot of KP.
Okay.
And I got a chance to get some free food too.
Okay. So now what we're going to do, and that is we're going to fast forward. Let's fast forward to after you've served and now you're coming back into civilian society. What happens?
Well, coming back to America, I think I was 19 when I came back here. Somehow I got to play with this band from Macon, Georgia, where they came over. Somebody brought them over one night. It was raining. I was still in school, still in high school. Actually, I just transferred from Roosevelt High School to Dunbar because we moved in Dunbar's district. And I used to play my guitar a lot of times in study hall and even in my classrooms during the day. If the teacher said, if everybody's done your homework and got your studies done, we're going to have Emmett come up and perform a few songs for us. And those would be days and times I would take my guitar to school. And I took my guitar to school almost every day. Sometimes I even wheeled my amplifier on wheels for like 2 miles to get to school, just so I could play in school, play in class. So once I got to playing here in class and I started getting more popular, I started teaching a little bit of guitar after I learned a few things myself. And I started playing with Piney Brown. It was Piney Brown and the Blues Toppers. He come and picked me up when I was actually playing gospel, but he wanted me to play some blues music. So he's the first guy that I went to nightclubs with when I came back from the service. Well, actually, before I went to the Army, and even after I came back. He was one of the first guys to come and pick me up. I was 13, and asked my mother if he could use me to play at a nightclub. And she would say, yeah, as long as you pay him and don't let him drink no alcohol. So I played with Piney Brown for a few years, and then when I got out of the Army at 19, I got with Big J. Bush and the House Rockers. I played with Big J. Bush for a year or two, and actually, when I was still in the Army, I have to mention, I also played in the USO in Germany. I played for 2 or 3 weeks in the USO for the troops, and then also when I was still in Germany, I played with the German band on my leaves when I had chance to, be off for like 3 weeks. I'd take a tour with the German band. But anyway, I toured Ohio, Kentucky, Pennsylvania with Big J. Bush and the House Rockers.
Oh, okay.
And later on, I guess, I played more gospel groups and I played in more bands. And then the lady, I met a lady before I left, and she lived in Michigan. So I ended up going to Michigan because we ended up getting married. And I stayed in Michigan for about 1.5 years or 2. And for a while, I got away from the music. I was listening to it, but I wasn't playing it because found out eventually we was going to have a kid, and her father worked for Ford Motor Company. He got me a job at Ford. So I worked at Ford for maybe about 3 months. Got the sack from Ford because I fell asleep on the job because I worked during at nights, and during the daytime I didn't get very much sleep. But anyway, instead of going back trying to get my job back at Ford, I instantly got a job working for General Motors, which there was so many factories around the area I was living. I was living in a town called Ypsilanti, Michigan, which is about 35 miles outside of Detroit. So that's where my in-laws and everybody was living. And I worked at General Motors doing transmissions, working on the machines that, where you could test the products. So I did that for about 7 months. And each time I'd go to work, I'd be singing or whistling or something. And so I just told these people at General Motors, I said, look, I don't think I can do this anymore. I want to go back to playing. Because on the weekends, I'd be out with the family, be going out to different places, listening to different groups sing and stuff, and playing and perform. And I said, man, should I really miss being on stage? So I left General Motors after 7 months, and I had to go get another job immediately because I wasn't going to be playing to make no money right away. So I ended up getting another job at another place called Motor Wheel, who made brake drums for cars. So I did that for a few months, and eventually we decided, well, let's move back to Dayton, Ohio from Michigan. So I brought my wife, my son back to Michigan, back to Ohio. Of course, there was a big family of them. Her cousins lived here in Dayton. There was a big Weatherspoon family because there was a lot of Weatherspoons in Michigan. There was a lot of Weatherspoons here in Dayton, and there's a lot of Weatherspoons in Alabama. So one of the Weatherspoons, I had taught how to play bass to back me up. Because when he saw me at 17, he wanted me to teach him how to play guitar.
Okay.
But I went to his house to teach him and was playing my guitar, he's looking at my fingers. He said, man, I can't move my fingers like you're doing it. He said, I thought for a minute. I said, well, if you can't play guitar, I said, maybe you can play bass. Because he had big fingers. And I said, maybe I can teach you how to play bass, and it might be easier for me to teach you that than the guitar. So he bought him a bass. I showed him how to play bass, basic blues stuff, and he ended up being in my band.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
So like I said, I went in the Army and I left the band, and they lasted for maybe a year and a half after I was gone because I was the band leader. They had another singer, but it wasn't gelling and staying together, until I got back. So when I got back, I think I said I ended up going to Macon, Georgia, with a band from Macon, Georgia, who had relatives in Lima, Ohio. Okay. So I played with them when they were staying in this area. Like I said, they had a guitar player, but they didn't have a lead guitar player. They had a rhythm player. So I ended up playing here in Dayton with them after I got to, working with them. Played in Lima, Ohio, a few gigs with them. I had family there. And then I went to Muncie, Indiana with them, which is where I had problems before. I played with them in Muncie during my school vacation time during the holidays from here at Dunbar. And I ended up staying longer than I was supposed to because I was telling my mother and them that I was with this band, and she knew I had went, but she didn't know I was going to be gone past school vacation.
Oh, okay.
So I ended up went through Christmas time, through Thanksgiving time, through Christmas time, and I was supposed to be back in school. And so my mother said, you better get home and go get back in school. And I ended up going all the way to Georgia with these guys. Oh. And though I've had family in Georgia, but we were not near Atlanta. We were in Macon, Georgia. Oh. And come to find out, once I got to Macon, the guy that was booking our gigs in Macon was Otis Redding's manager. And at the particular time, Otis Redding wasn't a favorite artist of mine, even though he was big. So I didn't really think that much of it till we went to his office one day. My band leader went to Otis Redding's manager's office because he was telling him about other gigs he was going to be booking us at, which most of the gigs he was booking us at was college gigs and stuff that lodge and stuff like for a lot of college kids. So the day I went there, they had this plexiglass door next to the elevator, and I saw all of these different girls. There was just a bunch of white girls running up the elevator, running up the stairs, going up the steps to the next few floors up. I'm saying, what's going on, man? They say Otis must have just come in, because I saw the elevator going up, and I saw all these girls running up the staircase. They said, yeah, Otis must have just came in. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I didn't really dawn on me, this is a famous guy right here in the same building I'm in. But he wasn't a celebrity or a big star to me like James Brown or Wilson Pickett, somebody that really, did songs.
Okay.
So after I left that office, I said, okay, so Otis' manager's booking the gigs for us. And I had some nice college gigs we did too.
Okay.
But the thing about it, after Otis died in that plane crash, I didn't realize how important it was that I should have met him while he was alive. And I was only like 10 feet from him. Okay. So I'm saying, oh man, I wish I had met that guy now. Uh-huh. Now he's dead, and I'm sitting there working for his manager, and I could have just went on and see if I could met him upstairs, Right. The same thing that happened with me when I got back here and I was playing for Wolfman Jack. I came home one night to Dayton, and I stayed here, I guess, for a couple of weeks to visit my family, and I was going to fly back to L.A. on the red eye. I guess it must have been about 2 o'clock in the morning. So instead of a straight flight, I had to stop over in St. Louis. So I stopped over in St. Louis, and it wasn't a very busy at the area of the airport that I was in. So I went up to my gate upstairs, and there was lots and lots of white women around this gate. And I was just wondering, well, who is this? What's going on? So I sit peeping through the crowd, and it was Chuck Berry in there in the midst of all of these women. And I say, wow, I didn't bother. And I say, well, I'm going to just go on and wait and catch the flight, because I didn't want to go and be in the midst of all, because just all of them women and him. 2 weeks later, working for Wolfman Jack, Chuck did the show, which you'll see on YouTube. I think it's tape 1 and tape 6 or something like that. We talked backstage, and see, a lot of people think I toured with Chuck Berry. I only worked with him that one time, and I was actually paid by Wolfman Jack, because I was working with Wolfman's band when me and Chuck played together. So when we did the Wolfman Jack show, Chuck was standing backstage behind the curtains, and I was telling him, I said, man, I could have met you 2 weeks ago. He said, well, why didn't you? I said, I remember I came through St. Louis on the red eye, and I said, remember you were standing at your gate before the plane came to board? All of these women was around you, and I said, man, I didn't want to interfere. I said, man, you should have came on over there. I said, nah, I didn't want to, get in the midst of all these women, and they trying to get autographs and ask you questions and all this stuff. So he says, wow. He said, well, look, we're here now. So we took a few pictures backstage. Then when we went on, you'll see us doing that Chuck Berry duck walk. He pointed over at me for me to do my thing from the right side of the stage as he was coming from the left side of the stage. So we did that duck walk thing together, and came out pretty good. Actually, on that show, I played with other people that was on the show. I think Maureen McGovern. I think Tanya Tucker was on that show also. She used to go with Glenn Campbell. So that's when I met her.
Oh, okay. I see. So, yeah. That was good right there. I could see that where you were on the side of the stage right there. And
yeah.
Did you have the Apple hat on?
I had that little cap.
A little Apple cap.
It was kind of, it felt like felt.
Oh, okay.
I don't know where that little hat disappeared to. Actually, I look at most of the hats I had on in my videos or doing my shoots on TV. I wonder what some of those hats are, because I really like those hats. And the hats that I do have left over now, my little gangster style hats, which really have had a lot of wear and tear on them now.
Okay.
So that's one of the reasons I didn't wear it today.
Okay. So what I'm hearing, and that is that you've had, and that's early in life, that you've had brushes with greatness or musical greatness at an early age. Was that a pivotal point in your life, meeting these, coming in contact with these individuals? Did that solidify your desire and your determination of becoming the artist?
Well, I think musically speaking, it had to be coming from my family, because all of my aunts and uncles sang in church.
Okay.
And my mother's side of the family was mainly the musical side that I know about,
Okay.
because I was around them most of the time in Middletown, my mother's side of the family.
Okay.
And I knew all of the girls. I think there was about 5 girls and 4 boys. All of the women played piano and organ and sang in church. All of my uncles sang in church, and they played in the military. You know, they trombone, trumpet, and saxophone. So all of my uncles played an instrument. And how I guess I started out so early because I was watching them in church and watching them practice at home, you know, the instruments and stuff.
Okay.
And my aunt's husband was the one who I watched American Bandstand with. And I used to lay in the floor while he would watch me be on the couch watching American Bandstand. I'd lay in the floor with my hands in my cheeks watching the girls screaming, and Little Richard and Chuck Berry and all the guys on there, you know, raising hell. So I say, man, this is what I want to do. Say, these girls are going crazy. And there's some pretty girls, too. I said, yeah. So that's why I started singing in talent shows after that. And actually, I went to Lebanon. I stayed in Lebanon, Ohio for 1 year
Okay.
with one of my aunts, my mother's sisters. And that's really why I got serious about writing song poems. I guess you could say I was in the 5th grade, and I was writing songs, you know, but I didn't know how to use no piano or no guitar. So like I said, I was just writing words, but listening to other people's melodies that was singing on the radio. I'd write my own words, you know.
Okay.
Like if they would say, don't know what I miss until I kissed you. I'd be writing my own da-da-da-da-da. Be saying something else, you know.
Okay.
So that happened for a while. Then I started singing in talent shows. When I moved back to Dayton at 12, before I actually picked the guitar up again, I just started singing and turning around like Jackie Wilson, you know,
Okay.
doing the splits and all that kind of stuff. Talent shows. Twice I won, but I didn't won the number one thing, which was just money. I think you would have got 10 or $20 to been number one.
Oh, okay.
Second place prize was a big giant checker set, you know.
Oh, okay.
I said, that's all right winning the checkers, but I'd rather win that money, you know.
Okay.
So I did it for a couple of years,
Okay.
and eventually I got back in wanting to play every weekend again.
Okay.
And my local stars from way back as a kid was a guitar player named Robert Ward,
Okay.
who was local.
Okay.
And this was like years before Sugarfoot came along with the Ohio Players.
Oh.
Because Robert Ward, the Ohio Players, was his band, but it was called the Ohio Untouchables.
Oh, okay.
So when they got rid of Robert Ward, then they got rid of Robert because he would have tantrums sometime. You know, out at the club out on Germantown, used to be the 5100 Club. I go out and hear him. I don't know what it's called now, but it's way out past what Spunky's is, but it's on the left side, going out 4, I think it's 4, going out that way.
Oh.
But anyway, he would have tantrums sometime, and due to the fact he was the star of the band and booking all the gigs, he got upset one night, or maybe a few times, and just stormed off the stage, took his guitar and cut everything off and left the band on stage playing.
Ooh.
Left everybody playing. He just got upset and left. They said, man, we going out to the club to hear the band. They said, man, Robert just got in his car and went home. I said, what?
Wow.
So they still playing, but they doing stuff that they can do without him.
Okay.
But they didn't have no singer right way. So eventually, this other guitar player that was playing gospel music when we were kids, like when I was 12 and 13,
Okay.
his name was Little Skip. Like I said, his name was Jerome McDonald. He left. We played in gospel groups together, but in different groups.
Okay.
And he showed me a few chords and a few guitar licks when I was coming up,
Okay.
even though we were about the same age.
Uh-huh.
He later on left here and he went with the Sugar Hill Gang. And he lived in Hartford, Connecticut for a while because that's where he had most of his kids. And then just, I guess over the past 20 years, he left his family there and he went to England.
Oh.
So I ran into him when I was in England in the 90s. And he told me he had, I guess, been over there for about 5 or 6 years. I told him I beat you because I was over here in 81, you know. But anyway,
Uh-huh.
he called me after he found that I was in London. We hooked up. When I went over to his place, I stayed at his place for a couple of nights. He said, man, I'm going to the studio tomorrow. I want you to bring your guitar and come and play something on my recording.
Uh-huh.
So he heard me do some George Benson stuff. He said, oh, I like that. I like that. He said, wait a minute. Put that right here on my tape. So he had the guy run the tape back. He said, I'll point to you when I want you to play what you just played.
Okay.
So I did a little Benson lick in there and said, yeah, that's what I want right there. So I did that. I said, man, I know some more Benson stuff you only playing. He said, no, that's enough.
Okay.
So that was cool. So we've stayed in touch, but not as much as I would like to, even though the fact he's way over there.
Okay.
Because I've been trying to really, I was asking him, I said, well, how are you able to stay over here? And I've met a few other Americans who lived over there, but they would never tell me how. There's other ways to do it, like, you know, marrying somebody.
Okay.
Of course, even those guys were trying to do that for me when I was being deported
Okay.
because of my overstay.
Okay.
But it was like catching a lot of those girls off guard, you know, at the last minute. Now
Okay.
you want us to marry you to stay in the country. So
Okay. Now
It
that
did
kind
happen.
of leads me to the question, and that is that dedicating yourself as far as to your music,
Mhm.
that how does that affect relationships?
It's very, very hard if you travel a lot and if you're serious about your music, which I was. So automatically, even though I love women, like I said, as much as the next guy, but my number one woman was my guitar. So,
Okay.
and there's been times I have like put things on hold, like my music,
Okay.
because I'm in love with this girl or this woman, and maybe she's got my head mixed up for about 5 or 6 months. And I'm realizing that I still love my music. I'm saying this might not work.
Okay.
And a lot of times they'll want to be with you because of your music.
Okay.
You know, so I said, well, it ain't hard finding women if you're on stage.
Okay.
So almost every woman, even if she don't really like you, she want to be with you because she's doing more than the guy that's sitting out in the audience, and because you got a little thing going, you know.
Okay.
So I'm saying, well, that can't be. I'm thinking that can't be the only reason I want to have a woman, just to have sex and have somebody there with me all the time, be at home waiting on me all the time. Because I have other friends and have saw other entertainers more older than me before my time,
Okay.
and realized they had beautiful wives and girlfriends, and they stuff didn't work out, and sometimes they had 2 or 3 wives at one time, and it didn't work out. And it has to be somebody who like you just for you. They don't care whether you play an instrument or not. Don't care whether you wear glasses or have false teeth or whatever. Are you fat or whatever? They just have to love you.
Okay.
When you find that kind of person that just love you for you and not no other materialistic things or because you do this or you do that,
Okay.
then but I would have to love and believe in them too.
Okay.
For me to say, okay, I can be gone for 6 months, as long as we call and write and stay in touch. that I can trust you and you can trust me.
Okay.
But it's hard finding people like that now.
Okay.
It might be harder now than it was, I told my mother, than it was when they were, her and my father were courting and getting together. Because she had told me years after, me being married a couple of times and getting older, she stayed with me for a month and a half or 2 out in North Hollywood, and I was in Hollywood. And she would always tell me, boy, you just need you a good woman. I say, Mama, sometimes it's not so easy. I say, I see a lot of women I like, but I say, now women are killing you over little or nothing. Or maybe they really don't want you, they just want what you have. Because I'm watching all these shows now on investigative discovery. I say, that's all these shows is about. People killing each other, girlfriends and wives and backstabbers, and sometimes it's your own cousin or your brother hitting on your girlfriend or your wife. I told her, no, it's not, no, I don't. I say, right now, I just want to be true to myself, knowing that my music is the number one thing to me, outside of God,
Okay.
of course, but that's where I would rather focus my sweat and time.
Okay.
Because, there's been times I've even flown a couple of women to California from Dayton. And I've flown a lady from London to Dayton. And I used to, always be buying them gifts, chocolates and cookies and maybe underwear or whatever, watches and necklaces. And there was a period in time in LA I decided, well, I think I'm going to start taking care of myself. I'm going to start treating myself. I'm going to start buying me watches and shoes and shirts and suits. I'm going to start buying me stuff now and doing things that I want to do, without having to have somebody on my arm or somebody telling me, well, are you going to pick me up or this? I say, that's cool, but sometimes if you can't be happy by yourself, you're going to have trouble if you got somebody with you care about and then you miss them all the time.
Right.
So it's a lot of musicians, they'll just give up and go home. They say, man, I love that woman too much, man. I got to go home because maybe hearing, she might not be doing anything, but it's always in your psyche.
Okay.
Man, I think, she might be messing around because she wasn't home when I called. It don't have to be nothing. She might have been with her friends. Then you wonder, is she out with so-and-so, they party all the time. And once that get in your head, it's hard for you to focus on music or being serious about learning a song or recording. You can't have that confusion.
Okay.
It don't come out right.
Okay. Now I have to interject, and that is, you haven't crossed off love, though, right?
No, definitely not.
Because some of your music
most of my songs have been about girlfriends, ex-girlfriends. Like Lady C. It's my English lady that I met. And I had a few, but Lady C was the first one I fell in love with. She's we call them mixed. Over there they called them, they had a name for it during the 70s. Something like cast, not outcast, but cast, some kind of cast. I can't remember what they said, but I knew what they meant,
Okay.
Here we just call them, they mixed, or mulatto, or something like that. Her father was Jamaican, her mother was British.
Okay.
So one of them pretty girls,
Okay.
So anyway, I met her when I first went over in '81. Well, actually, I told you I met this one lady from London when I went over with Barry, first time in '75. We played the Royal Albert Hall, which is like playing a pavilion or something, but, big, but it was enclosed.
Okay.
And we must have had like a couple of thousand people out there,
Okay.
And they were paying nice money.
Okay.
So we did 2 shows. And after the show, went back to my hotel, and me and this Jewish kid, guitar player who got hired at the same time, we went to go out and get some food outside the hotel.
Okay.
So we went to this restaurant and got some food, and I met this British lady there with her friend, 2 females.
Okay.
So I told her who I was and told her we just finished the show, and both of them wanted to come back to the hotel with us and hang out, you know. She was a little older than me, but I didn't notice then, you know.
Okay.
So we stayed in touch for a few years while I was still with Barry.
Okay.
And eventually, when I left Barry in '79, that's when I got my job at Wolfman Jack.
Okay.
So I did, a friend of mine from North Carolina got me a job at Wolfman Jack, and he lived in the same apartment complex I lived in.
Okay.
So he was saying, man, Wolf me the guitar player if you want to work with us. I'm going over to the rehearsal studio now, so you can follow me over. I went over and met him and met the band.
Okay.
Wolf wasn't there, but I got a chance to meet the band and start rehearsing stuff with the band, you know, blues stuff and stuff that everybody knew.
Okay.
And this was like at the end of '79. At the beginning of January, I met Wolfman, but then that's when he was putting his show together that you saw me on.
Right.
It was called Wolfman Jack's radio show, but he was actually a TV personality.
Okay.
But he started out as a DJ in Texas, so that's where that came in.
Okay.
It should have been the Wolfman Jack's TV radio show.
Well, it seems like a lot of personalities, like even Don Karshner's rock concert and so forth, that they were making that transition far as to television.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you, how many countries have you performed in?
Now with Barry White, many, many more than I've done as a solo artist. But I can just name a few, and I'll just say most of South America, Central America, North America, and Europe. Naming some of the South American cities he played in: Mexico City, Bogota, Colombia. We did Caracas, Venezuela. We played in Puerto Rico. Argentina. There's many more, but I just can't think of all them South American countries. Because we played in Puerto Rico. I like Puerto Rico so much. I even went to Puerto Rico on my birthday. I spent 2 weeks' time. I went there at the same hotel where I stayed at with Barry.
Okay.
And I told him who I was when I go in. I'd stay at the same hotel for 2 weeks. You know, I'd take my amplifier and guitar with me. My big old, I'd wheel it there, you know.
Okay.
Because I wanted to make sure I was comfortable. I wanted to make sure I had my guitar with me, and I had all the effects and stuff. So I'd open up my sliding doors and looking out on the ocean, playing my guitar, man. Be people looking down and checking me out from above and next door. But I'd never be too loud, just loud enough for them to notice there was a musician next door, you know.
Okay.
So I did it 3 times. Went to Puerto Rico, stayed in the same hotel.
Okay.
Made a lot of other Puerto Rican friends and stuff. Actually met one of my ex-girlfriends there in Puerto Rico. She was from Cincinnati, but she was one of them yellow girls, so, you know, she could have been Puerto Rican too and had that pretty hair. So we met after one of my Barry White shows, and she said she'd go over sometime and just get away from the mainland, stay for a couple of weeks, and that's how we met. Then she ended up coming back to California after my tour, because I told her she had been to California before, but because she did extra work. That's how I got in the Blues Brothers movie, through her.
Oh, that's right.
And this is the same time before, well, when I was leaving Wolfman too, to go with Isaac, because I met Isaac's drummer in the Wolfman, in the Blues Brothers movie.
Okay.
And when I saw him, I said, man, that's somebody I know. I met him through Boots, like 5 or 6 years before.
Oh,
because
okay.
Boots was playing with Isaac during the 70s.
Okay.
So when I ran into this guy, this was like about 79. Because Boots was with Isaac in like 71 and 72, 73.
Okay.
So I remember meeting him through Boots, and I told him, he said, yeah, man. I said, what are you doing now? I said, what is Boots doing? I told him, I ain't seen Boots in a while. He might be in Dayton. I told him I'm with Barry White right now, but Barry hadn't been doing no work. You know, it's like on hiatus, so I had been doing some work with Wolfman Jack. And he said, "Are you going to be here tomorrow?" Because I had 4 days to shoot in the Blues Brothers movie.
Okay.
And my girlfriend was telling me at the time, he says, "You ain't doing that with Barry right now. You may as well come on down here because they're paying us $50 a day." And I said, "Well, shoot, that's better than sitting at home watching TV." And all I had to do was just sing along with what they were singing. Like the part I was in was when Cab Calloway was on stage singing "Heidi, Heidi, He." Heidi, Heidi, ho. We just clapping and singing Heidi, Heidi, he. And I'm just being a part of the audience. So
Okay.
I didn't have any specific part like being the guitar player.
Okay.
But when we took a break, that's when I talked to Isaac's drummer. He said, "Yeah, man, I remember you from meeting through Boots." So he said, "You gonna come here tomorrow?" I said, "Yeah, but they're shooting 4 days, so that's $200 for me." And so I went. He said, "Tomorrow, I'll give you a number to call." So I went back the next day, and he wrote on a piece of paper and gave me a number to call. Say, "This is Isaac's bodyguard." So when I got home, I called him and told him I was Barry White's guitar player, but Barry wasn't doing anything at the time. And I told him I had ran into Willie Hall, the drummer, shooting Blues Brothers movie. And I told him I played guitar. And he said, Isaac was looking for a guitar player. He says, "Yeah, Isaac's looking for a guitar player that can play everything." He said, "You play wah-wah and all them other effects, and you can play lead." I said, "Yeah, I play rhythm, lead, effects, anything you want." He said, "Okay." He says, "Isaac is looking for a lead player." He said, "Give me your address." I gave him my address. He said, "I'm going to be mailing you a few albums by Isaac so you can listen to some of the stuff that he's just recorded." So he sent me the albums, and I listened to him for a few weeks. Actually, who was at my house listening to him with me for a while was New Birth's bass player, because he was playing on some of my original stuff, but the stuff that I was just making up at home, my recorder at home, my home recording. So I'd have him come over, because I was friends with New Birth. He said, "Yeah, I played the bass on this for you, man." So he played laying down tracks. So when I got the albums from Isaac, he might have been there to with me listening to him. And so after a few weeks doing that, I got a call back from Isaac's bodyguard. He says, "Hey, Emmett, man, we're sending you a ticket." So we're sending you a ticket to Atlanta. He says, "Look, get all your things together." And so I put all my stuff in storage. And me and my girlfriend at the time that was doing the movie thing, we was splitting up. Because I didn't think she was going to go to Atlanta. So, it's just times like that where you got to go and you can't always take somebody.
Okay.
So we were splitting up, and it was kind of hard because I had met her in Puerto Rico, and we had been together over 2 years,
Okay.
So that was somebody I had been with where I hadn't had a regular girlfriend for a long time. And so she got to be friends with my friends at New Birth and stuff like that. And some of us, even during our time together, we even shared some apartments with some of the New Birth guy and his lady, So we all got to be pretty tight. But anyway, when I got to Atlanta and met, I didn't meet Isaac right away. I met all the band members and bodyguard. He had us staying in Holiday Inn. This was during a time where Isaac was being, the tax people was after his money, They was trying to get all his money because he had made a lot of money and they hadn't been taking care of business, I guess, his business people at Stax. Hadn't been taking care of his tax stuff.
Okay.
They were taking his money, actually. They were taking his money from his songs while Isaac was out on the road getting his money from shows. All the hit records from Hot Buttered Soul, and I don't say they cleaned him out, but they were getting a lot of money that he should have been getting, which put him in that tax problem.
Okay.
So they put him in that problem. They wasn't paying his taxes. They was getting all the royalties and not paying no taxes. And when Isaac got off the road to see about it, well, he probably knew before he got off the road. So I'm sure somebody must have told him, "Man, they ripping you back off here at Stax, man. You got to get back." He got back there. I guess he raised hell, but wasn't nothing he could do after the money's gone. Because, like 5 or 6 people done split it up.
Oh, yeah.
So back in Atlanta, after I got there, With the studio with Isaac and the band members, I guess, for almost 2 months.
Oh.
We hadn't did anything yet. I mean, they were busy doing stuff in the studio, but he wasn't using all the musicians yet.
Oh.
He had stuff he had already laid down with other people. And I'm saying, damn, each time I'm going, I'm getting paid, but I'm here all night hanging out with all the other guys. We drinking beer and everybody smoking a little bit and doing other illegal stuff. So at the time, he decides to call me after I decided to do something that I shouldn't have been doing. But I was pretty wired up when he saw me. It's like maybe I had a few of those, what do you call those things we were talking about in the supermarket that you drink? They got
Oh, the Red
rings.
Bull?
Yeah, like Red Bull.
Okay.
So at the time he approached me, I felt like Red Bull. So I wasn't on it at the time. So I said, man, I don't know if I can do this right now. And he asked the bodyguard, I said, man, what's wrong with Emmett? I said, man, I don't know. So I had to explain to him, I said, man, I said, all these times I've been going back and forth to the studio, he hasn't called me. So this one specific time, I get wasted in the back, now he wants to call me. So I didn't tell him I was doing anything illegal, but I just told him, I wasn't in it that night. So he said, okay, well, I'll call you the next couple of nights. He got me back. And I got all my credits and stuff for playing on the album. So that's all that mattered, and I got paid.
Mm-hmm.
So we were playing on a Linda Clifford album called Baby, I'm Yours. So you might see that on the internet and see they gave me my credits.
Oh, okay. Okay. Let me ask you this right here. That in your career, you've been a stellar musician, artist, but one of the unknown traits that you happen to possess also is I'm hearing from your story, and that is you somehow managed to harness the power of networking, of utilizing your network.
Somehow I started doing that a long time ago. Like I said, before the internet, I was always into, well, how can I get myself more known or be more popular or to get more gigs. And I thought makeup, flyers, pictures, posters. And if there's no internet, you can still pass them out, tack them up on the post. Because when I used to come home from L.A., and maybe be here for 3 or 4 weeks, just visiting friends and family and hanging out, maybe jamming a little bit.
Uh-huh.
I had made up posters of me, not for playing at any particular club, but posters of my music that I had recorded. And I was driving around using my mother's car, putting them all up and down Gettysburg and 3rd Street, nailing them up myself. And I did get a few calls, some friends saying, yeah, man, I just saw one of your posters up on Gettysburg. I took it home. I said, yeah, okay, thanks. Yeah, we put it on my wall.
Uh-huh. Now, if you don't mind, what about sharing one of your stories where you're networking or somehow you managed to turn a negative situation around? Would it be okay if we discussed the time that you were being deported?
Well, actually, funny enough, I've been deported from over there twice. But good things are happening when I was deported. Like I said, when I first got deported in '84, I had a song out in the charts.
Now,
in the local charts.
Where were you getting deported from?
London.
Okay.
I was there for from 81 to 84. And during that time from 81 to 84, I had played and recorded with 3 or 4 different bands, from pop bands to reggae bands to blues bands to jazz bands. And that's another thing about me. Some people who play guitar or other instruments, they only can play one thing. that's what really helped me a lot. First of all, playing with Barry White, because he used 3 to 4 guitars. And all the guitar, and when I first got there, I'm used to, in most bands used to seeing 2 guitars if they don't have a keyboard player. It's either lead and a rhythm guitar player. When I got there, he was using 3 and 4 guitar players. And I said, man, what in the world are these other guys going to be playing, So I sat there and I listened to how Barry worked in the studio and with the orchestra. Everybody's playing different stuff, but it's weaved. They weaved it like a glove.
Okay.
Because David T. Walker was his recording guitar player. David had a certain sound and was playing certain things. Wah-Wah Watson had a certain sound. He was playing most of the effects. And all that stuff like that. And then Ray Parker was a funk guitar player. And he had certain things he played on Barry's albums. And so what I'm saying, it made me better. I had to learn all of their styles and get their sound. Because when I got there, Barry was into a transition to where he wasn't going to use these guys in the studio anymore, because they were charging triple scale through the union.
Oh.
And at a particular time, which was like, I think, $121 with single scale. So if they was getting triple scale, they was getting $300, almost $400. And this is back in the 70s.
Okay.